Hi, it's Will from StormTheCastle.com, and this is part 4 of the Sculpting Fantasy Miniatures tutorial. This part focuses on making armatures for your miniatures, and I covered a little bit of that in the previous tutorials, but I'm going to get in depth with it, especially because we're moving towards smaller miniatures now. If you've been following along with these tutorials, you should be making some larger miniatures, 6 inches, to get a feel for how to sculpt. And that's important because you have to get anatomy right, and you have to do your drawings, and you have to do some sculpting, and it takes time, so you got to practice that. So you should do a bunch of those at 6 inches, just using regular dough or Play-Doh or Super Sculpey or anything you want to do that. But anyways, let me get back to this particular tutorial, part 4, about making armatures. Now let me go over real quick what I've got here, the materials you use. To work on an armature, a small armature, you need somewhere to hold it tight while you're working on it. You can pick it up and look at it, particularly under a magnifying glass. And cork, a lot of people use cork. See, I've stuck them right in the cork there, and that works pretty good. I've also created a little holder for the armature like this by just rubber banding 2 pieces of wood together, and that works pretty well. I also have a small vise that I like to use. So those are some of the different options. The material you use to make the armature is wire, and there's a lot of different types of wire you can use, and you can be flexible about it. It always has to be solid wire, and usually around 22 gauge, 24 gauge is pretty good. You can use bare wire, or you can use insulated wire. You can also use paper clips. But you'll have to, floral wire, the wire they use to tie up flowers and stuff with, that works pretty good too. You can buy armature wire online. It's 1/16 of an inch, which is a little bit thick, which is about like this. It's a little bit thick, but you still can manage it. So, and did I say you can use paper clips too? But one paper clip won't be enough for your armature. You have to put a few together. Now let's look at some of the tools. You've got pliers, some wire strippers, wire cutters, snips, diagonal pliers, needle nose pliers. These really come in handy if you have needle noses. Soldering pencil, soldering iron, and solder, and sandpaper. The solder is optional. Occasionally I will solder my armatures, makes them stronger, especially if I'm using thin wire. And the sandpaper. Now the thing about the sandpaper is, whenever you're using any kind of a wire, even if it's coated or uncoated, you should sand it a little bit and make it rough. That will help the clay stick to it better. Sometimes it can be very hard to get the clay to stick to it. If you rough it up with sandpaper before you make the armature, get your piece of wire, rough it up with sandpaper pretty good, wipe it dry, and then it'll be much better for your sticking the clay or the Procreate or whatever product you use to the armature. So let's take a look at some of these smaller ones here. I'll show you that it's important that you understand the figure you're going to make before you start making the armature, because the armature is going to reflect the skeletal insides of that figure. So I got a few different figures here if you can see them. On the left there I have some kind of like a lizard dragon man. See him, he's got his long tail and his long nose. And then I've got a couple of regular humans, humanoid shapes in different poses. And then I've got a wizard. And the last one on the right there is a dwarf. The dwarf is a little wider and a little shorter. And in front is just another normal kind of human in the other thing. So, you have to make your armature according to the figure you're going to make. Of course, that makes perfect sense. So let me show you. You can probably fiddle around with wire and experiment and come up with your own ways to make armatures, but I'm going to show you the way that I do it. It's pretty simple, and I'm going to show you using large wire. And that way you can see what I'm doing, and it's pretty quick and easy, and it makes a pretty good armature for a regular humanoid. Okay, now I'm going to show you the quick and easy way that I use to make human-shaped armatures from miniatures. I'm going to take 2 pieces of wire, and I have 2 different colors here just so it's easier for you to see. One of them is very long, one of them shorter. Take the short one, in this case the red one. I'll take one, the long one, and fold it in half like this. Then take the short one and put it right in there, right in the middle. right like that. See it? Now get as deep a grab as you can on all three of those so they all hold still with a pair of pliers. Now wrap the outer ones around the center one. So the center one stays straight. The outer ones just twist around it, like this. And you're going to do that till you get about a torso size. You know, about the size of the torso that you're building. So it's usually 3 or 4 wraps, depending on the size of the miniature you're making. So we're pretty much done there. Now, you snip the head. I have a little head there. Snip the arms, and then I'll snip these again to get in the right length. And if you wanted the tail, you'd have the tail here that you could use. But we're making a humanoid, so let's snip that tail off. And separate this so you have 2 legs. And that's that. Now we straighten all this out. Start to make some shapes here. The shoulders. I'm going to put my shoulders in. Alright, got my shoulders. Coming along nice. Trim the arms. Now that's the basic shape, and you have to make sure that you make the legs longer than they're supposed to be, because otherwise you won't have any extra to to stick them in the cork. So you got plenty of extra here to stick in the cork or to stick in your little jig. So keep the legs extra long. Now from here you get the basic human shape, but now you have to model it to whatever it is you whatever pose you want to make. So, but that's easy enough. That's an easy way to do it, and have fun with it. You know, try different techniques, and I'll show you here. I did a whole bunch of different ones. I was trying all different techniques, and I had some fun with it, with different colors and trying different shapes, and you know, I had fun. I really enjoyed making this lizard man. That was a fun one to make, and my favorite one's probably the wizard with his staff here. I like that one very much. So that's the end of this tutorial. I also have a web-based tutorial on my website for the same thing. And I'm continuing on with this. This is part 4. I'm continuing on to part 5, which is making a 3-inch miniature using Super Sculpey. And with that, we will be able to get some nice detail. It's going to be a lot smaller than the one we made. It's not quite yet this size, but we're working our way down, and we're learning the process of sculpting miniatures as we go. So hang in there.